Early voting in the 2024 election is taking shape much faster than it had in previous years. You guys have got to see what's happening in these swing states like Pennsylvania and Michigan. You're not going to want to miss this.
Oh, Michigan. There's the Susquehanna poll that had Trump down, Harris up 5. Yeah. And our buddies over at Real Clear Politics were saying we haven't seen a poll showing it that wide in Michigan for some time. There are others showing it much tighter than that. They only polled 400 voters, and the margin of error is basically 5.
Was it registered voters or likely voters? I don't know. Is it RV or LV?
I don't
that's
have
important.
that.
And let me tell the audience
it's LV. It's LV. It's like
yeah.
Voters.
That's more accurate then. So registered voters is that you're just calling people on the voting rolls. Likely voters are people that actually have the intent to vote. Now, I will say, you try to merge the two in a Trump election because Trump tends to pull more from a registered voter pool of lower likely, low propensity voters. But look, it could be an outlier, or I don't think it's true. Michigan is very, very hard to determine. What we are seeing, though, and this is legit, this is what's happening in Detroit, Atlanta, and Philadelphia. Black voters are not turning out in big numbers right now. It's happening in every major black city. Therefore, they have to do better the Democrats have to do better in the rurals, they have to do better in small towns, and they have to do better in the suburbs. So Michigan, I'm not going to make any proclamations there or predictions. It's still too early. We're still processing a lot of the data. It's a very, very crooked state on how they do elections there. Very, very crooked. But as it stands right now, there's a surge. And let me tell you what's happening in Michigan. Donald Trump is doing very well with people in the auto industry because of his pledge to get rid of the electric vehicle mandate. And do not underestimate the power of how Donald Trump is going to win the Arab Muslim vote. Let me say it again. Mm-hmm. There's polling that suggests this. You go on the ground there. I was just meeting with some Arab Muslim leaders recently. They are so upset with Kamala Harris. And just culturally, they have a tough time voting for a woman. I'm not on that page as they are, but I'm just giving you the, kind of the journalistic analysis. You talk to rank and file in the Muslim community. They do not believe that women should serve in political leadership largely. So that is something that they have to overcome. That's hard as it is. And thirdly, and I think it's really important to mention, is that in Michigan, there are sizable college campuses, and they are not doing as well at Ann Arbor or East Lansing. They're just not. The two major university campuses, young men are the most conservative they've been in 50 years. We've been organizing on these campuses. We've been getting these young people out to vote, and we're going to lose by less on a lot of these campuses and try to keep Kamala Harris under 20 points. If she's under a 20-point margin with younger voters, there's almost no path for her to become president.
I can attest to what he was saying there about a lot of communities showing up for Trump that you would never expect. I was at the rally at MSG. I looked to my left, I looked to my right. I see Jewish people, Arab people, Asian people, African Americans. I see every race, religion, and creed that you can possibly think of. And the Democrats the last 50 years have wholly relied on this demographic. So if they abdicate from voting and choose to sit this one out, Kamala would be losing a huge portion of her base.
Saying that the suburbs, that's the whole deal for her, pointing out the latest Wall Street Journal poll found Harris leading among suburban voters by 7 percentage points. A Reuters Ipsos analysis showed the vice president winning suburban households by 6 points. So for sure, they are looking at the suburbs very, very hard. And they also had a piece out yesterday saying across battlegrounds, there's a 10-point gender gap in the early voting so far. Women account for roughly 55% of the early vote. Men just around 45%, according to a Politico analysis of early vote data in several key states. The implications for next week's election results are unclear. Among registered Republicans, women are voting early more than men, too. So that's, one would presume that those people would be voting for Trump, but you never know, given his problems with women. So how do we factor that in? 10-point gender gap in favor of women. However, look what we just discussed about what's happening in Nevada and what's happening in North Carolina. Just because there's a gender gap doesn't mean we can assume all the women are going for Kamala. There are a lot of Republican women who are going to vote Trump.
For sure. So this is Kamala's best hope, is that this gap is continuing. Now, but let me try to sober up the Kamala people out there. Number one, women do vote earlier than men. Just the same reason why women in class turn their homework on time before men. Men tend to be a little bit let's just say later to the party on such things. It's just true. Honestly, any teacher will tell you that the women in the class are far more dutiful and responsible with those sorts of things. Number two, that gap will close. The electorate will become redder and more masculine as we get closer to election day. Number three, though, is that it's not predominantly younger women. As we see this in the data in Arizona, at least, it's a lot of older women, which tend to be far more Republican than Democrat, which is very important. But in order for Kamala to win, that disparity needs to hold. That kind of margin of the battle of the sexes, women need to do far better with turnout and far better with support. And don't take my word for it. When Kamala Harris was getting a beer with Gretchen Whitmer caught on a hot mic, she's like, we got to do better with men. We have to do better with men. And you wonder why men are rejecting you? Men want to be part of a political movement that does not hate their existence. They want to be part of something that does not believe that they are a problem simply for breathing. And so, look, if men will rise up in the next 6 days, Donald Trump is going to win. It's that simple. If men and women will vote at the same level, they probably won't. Usually women vote 4 or 5 points more than men if that gap can be closed. However, that is Kamala Harris's big play. Run up the score in the suburbs if you can, because right now that urban corridor is not manifesting. They're used to that kind of very heavy, very significant black population and inner city vote that is not turning out. So they have to do well with the suburbs and hope that there is a surge of female girl power that will put Kamala Harris in the White House.
You wonder why Kamala and the Democrats are struggling recruiting men? You've been attacking them nonstop for the past 4 years. Kanye West said it a couple years ago. He said the straight white man has the smallest voice in society today. You can't say anything about any other ethnic group or else you're racist. You can't say anything about women or you're sexist. You can't say anything about gay people, you're homophobic. This is the agenda that the Democrats are saying. I think everybody should have the equal say in saying whatever the heck they want. If you're a man, who do you have to actually look up to in the Democratic Party? Honest question. Who, Tim Walz? Am I supposed to look to Tim Walz for a beacon of masculinity? I don't mean to do a personal attack, but that dude is an absolute fruitcake. He even lied about his service history. That's not someone that men can relate to. So I would say their struggle with men is completely self-inflicted because they're attacking men and they have no one who represents men in their party.
About 10 days ago about how there was Democrat infighting there. They were blaming some of the get out the vote, poor returns or poor efforts on one young woman who is supposed to be running the effort. But the polls show Pennsylvania is still tight. I mean, it's not like Donald Trump is running away with it there. So what do you know about Pennsylvania?
Yeah, so these numbers are going to be a little outdated, but they're approximations. So typically, here's how it works. In Pennsylvania, early voting is almost only embraced by Democrats. Traditionally in Pennsylvania, it's of all the swing states, the state that just resists early voting the most, it's Pennsylvania. They are a same-day, election day culture. You ask anybody in Pennsylvania, they say, we go and vote on election day, and the Democrats have embraced mail-in voting. So in 2020, when Donald Trump fell 80,000 votes short, the Democrats built what is called a blue firewall. In 2020, they built a 1.1 million vote blue firewall. So that is all early votes leading up until Election Day. Okay, so they had a 1.1 built-in blue firewall. The firewall, as of today, is about 384,000 votes. Again, that could be off because these numbers are constantly changing as votes are being dumped. So it's basically a 700,000 vote decrease of the blue firewall. So Donald Trump, therefore, has to overcome 700,000 less votes on Election Day than he did in 2020. That is very doable. That is very achievable, obviously. So Democrats are now in a place where they only built an advantage that is 384,000 votes. Now, Pennsylvania counts their votes differently than Arizona. They don't pre-canvass. So on election night, we're actually going to know really well Donald Trump's chances because all the election day votes get counted first. And then, as you know, it takes some days to count the mail-in votes in Pennsylvania, which is going to be this population that favors Democrats by about 384,000 votes. So if Donald, again, I haven't done the exact math, but here's the essence of it. If Pennsylvania has massive and record election day turnout, that is awesome news for Donald Trump. It's that simple. If Pennsylvania just roars and has unbelievable turnout, especially in places like Allentown and, of course, Butler and Erie and in the rurals and the surrounding areas of Lancaster and in Bucks County, and I think Donald Trump, I'm going to call it right now, I think Donald Trump might win Scranton. I know that is, which I believe is, it's another fun word. It's like Susquehanna or something, or county, not that, but it's something else. It's Lackawanna County or something. I think he might actually win that county. So Pennsylvania is in a far worse position for the Democrats this cycle than it was in 2020.
Okay.
You always hear that Donald Trump has a terrible problem with women and women just can't relate to him. But I truly think if they just listen to the man for what he's actually saying and what he did while he was in office, it's clear Donald Trump is one of your biggest advocates. He wants to preserve women's sports. He wants to look after women's rights. If you think Donald Trump is the enemy of women, look at the Trump organization. He would consistently hire women executives. He didn't care about what gender you were. He only cared about who can fulfill the job requirements the best. If you're a man, woman, it didn't matter. So for the women out there who are voting for Kamala Harris strictly because she's going to save your right to have an abortion, I'm just going to say, look into the facts. Donald Trump is only sending it back to the states. That's what the Constitution says. The states should have that power. The federal government should not oversee every aspect of your life. I have voted for Donald Trump 3 times, 2016, 2020, and I voted yesterday. And I gotta tell you, this election was the easiest one yet. This is an absolute no-brainer. Why don't we vote for the guy who takes a bullet for this country rather than vote for the woman who avoids questions like the plague? She doesn't go on any interviews unless she knows what's going to be asked, and it's got to be a certain duration. She's an absolute fraud. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this down below. What state do you think will be the most consequential for the 2024 election? I happen to think Pennsylvania is the must-win for Donald Trump. Let me know your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear that. And if you enjoyed, make sure to smash that like, comment, subscribe, and wish you guys nothing but the best. Till next time.